Hey, it's Chris, your favorite film school dropout turned professional video editor. Today we're diving into why Joker Folie isn't what you think it is, and why that's a good thing. Now, let's start with the intriguing title, Folie It's French for madness of two, and in clinical terms, it's a sort of shared psychosis. This isn't just about Arthur and Harley's relationship. It's about us, the audience, and our symbiotic dance with filmmakers. This concept perfectly encapsulates the complex relationship between creators and consumers in the world of sequels. Sounds pretentious, but think about it. We, the audience, demand more of what we loved, often expecting the impossible task of recapturing the magic of the original. Meanwhile, filmmakers grapple with the challenge of revisiting stories they once considered complete, torn between artistic integrity and commercial pressures. This shared delusion, this madness, fuels the sequel machine. Joker 2 doesn't just participate in this cycle, it uses it as a central theme, turning the lenses back on us, the viewers. Sequels often struggle to innovate while maintaining the essence of the original. They must offer more of the same, yet be different enough to justify their existence. This tension is at the heart of Joker Folie but the director Todd Phillips takes this concept further. He's not just acknowledging the struggle, he's making it a central part of the narrative. The film becomes a meta-commentary on the very nature of sequels, asking us to question why we crave them and what we expect from them. Consider the phenomenon of diminishing returns in sequels. Film critic Roger Ebert once said, "Every great film should seem new to you every time you see it." Yet sequels often fall into the trap of rehashing old ideas, leading to a sense of déjà vu that could disappoint audiences. Phillips, with Joker 2, seems acutely aware of this pitfall and actively works to subvert it. The film industry's reliance on sequels is not just a recent trend. All the way back to the origin of film, Hollywood has been capitalizing on successful properties. But in recent years, this tendency has exploded, with franchises dominating the box office. According to a 2023 report by Statista, 7 of the top 10 highest-grossing films of all time are sequels, or part of a larger franchise. This sequel mania reflects a broader cultural phenomenon, a reluctance to let go of familiar stories and characters. This attachment stems from the parasocial relationships we form with fictional characters. These characters become a part of our lives. Sequels allow us to continue these relationships, providing a sense of comfort and continuity in an ever-changing world. But Joker Folie challenges this comfort by radically departing from the style and tone of the first film. Incorporating musical elements, for instance, Phillips forces us to confront our expectations. He's asking, do we really want more of the same, or are we open to a new interpretation of a familiar character?
Joaquin's portrayal of Arthur is so heartbreaking because he just wants people to understand who he is, and everybody's just interested in the sensational part, in the Joker, in the intrigue of the murders and the thing, and Arthur just wants people to know who he is.
Moreover, the film explores the idea of shared delusion on multiple levels. There's the obvious connection to Arthur and Harley's relationship, but it also applies to the collective delusion of Gotham City, the mass hysteria that the Joker incites, and even our own willingness to buy into the conceit of a musical villain's story. In essence, Joker 2 is holding up a funhouse mirror to sequel culture. It's participating in the madness while simultaneously critiquing it, creating a viewing experience that's both familiar and jarringly new. As we watch Arthur navigate his warped reality, we're also navigating our own relationship with sequels, franchises, and the stories we can't seem to let go. By embracing the psychological concept of Folie Phillips has created more than just a sequel. He's crafted a metatextual exploration of sequel culture itself, challenging us to examine our own role in perpetuating this cycle of madness. And in doing so, he's elevating Joker 2 from a mere follow-up to a commentary on the nature of storytelling in the age of endless franchises. Joker 2 opens in 1983 with Arthur Fleck awaiting trial in Arkham State Hospital, but this setting isn't just about Arthur's fate. It's about the film itself standing trial before audiences and critics. Phillips, in a masterful display of multi-layered storytelling, structures the movie around 3 interconnected dimensions, each adding a layer of complexity to the narrative. First, we have the plot itself. At its core, we have Arthur's story, his experiences in Arkham, his relationship with Harley Quinn, and his ongoing struggle with his Joker persona. This dimension provides a surface-level narrative that casual viewers can follow and enjoy. But even here, Phillips is playing with our expectations. The plot serves as a mirror to the film industry's approach to sequels. Just as Arthur grapples with his identity, so too do sequels often struggle to establish their own identity while honoring their predecessors. Audience perception. Phillips is acutely aware of how audiences will view this sequel, given the controversy and acclaim of the first film. He plays with our expectations, sometimes fulfilling them, other times subverting them entirely. This dimension is where Phillips really flexes his meta-narrative muscles. He's not just telling Arthur's story, he's commenting on how we, the audience, consume and interpret these stories. Every twist in the plot, every surprising character development serves as a reflection of our own expectations and biases. Perhaps most meta of all, Phillips seems to anticipate and incorporate potential critical responses into the film itself. The courtroom scenes, where Arthur is literally on trial, serves as a metaphor for the film's own trial in the court of public and critical opinion. By doing this, Phillips preemptively engages with critics, turning their potential arguments into part of the film's thematic fabric. This dimension is particularly fascinating because it blurs the line between the film's internal logic and the external discourse surrounding it. When Arthur defends his actions in court, is he also defending the film's artistic choices? And when the prosecution argues against him, are they channeling the voices of critics who might find the film's approach too experimental or divergent from the original? These three dimensions constantly interact and inform each other throughout the films. This approach is reminiscent of Charlie Kaufman's works in films like Adaptation, which directly involve the audience in the storytelling process. Just as Kaufman's film blurred the lines between reality and fiction, Joker 2 blurs the lines between the stories it's telling and the context in which it's being told. The introduction of Harley Lee Quinzel, played by Lady Gaga, adds another facet to this meta-commentary. Her character serves as a proxy for the audience, drawn into Arthur's world in the same way that we are drawn into the film.
We did develop a really good partnership. I think that we were always looking for the truth, and these are kind of extraordinary circumstances, that he's in prison, that, he has killed 5 people, that she's in love with him, she believes he's going to get out, she would do anything for him. And I think in any given moment, we were always trying to find the reality and the thing that connects to people.
Her fabricated backstory and obsession with Joker mirror our own fascination with anti-heroes and our tendency to romanticize troubled characters. As Phillips noted in a 2023 Deadline interview, when someone becomes an icon, we as a society impose expectations on them, ones that they may never be able to meet. This statement isn't just about Arthur or Harley. It's about celebrity culture and the film itself, and the immense expectations placed upon it as a sequel to a critically acclaimed and controversial original. The meta-narrative extends even to the film's marketing and reception. The discourse surrounding this film, the debates, the think pieces, the social media discussions, become part of the narrative itself. In a sense, we, the audience, are completing the meta-narrative by engaging with the film on these multiple levels. By weaving these dimensions together, Phillips creates a film that operates on multiple levels simultaneously. It's not just a sequel to The Joker, but a commentary on sequels themselves, on a relationship with media, and on the very nature of storytelling in the age of franchise filmmaking. It challenges us to be more than passive consumers, inviting us to engage critically with the film and, by extension, with our own expectations and biases. It's telling a story about storytelling, about how we create and consume narratives in the modern age, that holds up the mirror not just to Arthur Fleck, but to all of us who find ourselves captivated by his story. Before you roll your eyes, consider this. These melodic elements serve a dual purpose that elevates the film beyond a simple genre mashup. In Joker 2, the musical numbers offer insight into Arthur's psyche, allowing us to experience his internal world in a way that dialogue alone never could.
There are these musical elements, and it was important to me that they really reflect what the characters are going through emotionally in an authentic way. There is that tendency to, if you're making a film and there are musical numbers in it, that you're going to approach it in a certain way as if it belongs to a particular genre. Maybe technically it does, I don't know about that, but I know that it was important that it feel real.
Let's break down a few key musical moments, cheek to cheek. In a surreal sequence, Arthur and Harley dance to this Irving Berlin standard on the steps of Gotham City Hall. The dreamlike quality of this scene blurs the line between reality and fantasy, much like Arthur's own perception. The lyrics, "Heaven, I'm in heaven," take on a darkly ironic tone given the chaos they're about to unleash. Send in the clowns. This Sondheim classic serves as a haunting leitmotif throughout the film. Its melancholic tone and lyrics about the bitterness of life perfectly encapsulate Arthur's worldview. The reoccurring use of this song ties the narrative together, charting Arthur's emotional journey. But these three musical numbers and the rest do more than just reveal character. By incorporating such unexpected elements, Phillips challenges our expectations of what a Joker film, or indeed any comic book film, should be. The juxtaposition of gritty realism with lavish musical performances forces us to confront our own preconceptions about genre and storytelling. Moreover, the choice of classic American songbook standards is no accident. These songs, with their associations of nostalgia and a golden age of cinema, create a stark contrast with the film's dark themes. Phillips is commenting on our tendency to romanticize the past, much like how we often romanticize older films and franchises, though of course there's good reason for this often.
Frank Sinatra is not the reference for this. Frank is somebody that Arthur's heard on the radio but he's incapable of singing a song like that. And what I really want is like a child, like when a child sings a song and it's so meaningful to them.
Phillips told The Hollywood Reporter there's a complexity to Arthur and Harley's relationship that can only be expressed through music. This bold choice evokes classical musicals, particularly the 1953 film The Bandwagon, which is directly referenced within the film. In one scene, we see Arthur and Harley recreating the famous Dancing in the Dark number, with a darker edge that subverts the original's romantic intentions. The musical elements also allow Phillips to play with the idea of performance and identity, themes central to the Joker character. In these numbers, we see Arthur fully embracing his Joker persona, blurring the lines between his act and his true self. It's a powerful way for the film to demonstrate the fragmented psyche of Arthur and his journey of self-discovery or self-destruction. Interestingly, the use of music in Joker 2 also serves as a commentary on the power of media and entertainment. Just as Arthur uses these musical numbers to escape his reality, we as audiences use films like Joker to explore dark themes from a safe distance. It's a sort of commentary on our relationship with challenging art. While it may not be your cup of tea necessarily, the musical elements of Joker Folie Deux are far more than just a gimmick. They're an integral part of the film's narrative and thematic structure, adding layers of meaning and subtext that enrich the viewing experience. As Arthur's trial progresses, Joker Folie Deux continually obscures the line between reality and fantasy. But this isn't just a stylistic choice or a way to keep the audience guessing. It's a profound commentary on the nature of sequels, our perception of media, and the malleability of truth in our post-truth era. At the heart of this blurring is Arthur Fleck himself, the epitome of an unreliable narrator. His perception of reality was already questionable in the first film, but Folie Deux takes us to new heights. We're never quite sure if what we're seeing is happening in the real Gotham or just in Arthur's mind. This uncertainty mirrors our own relationship with sequels. Are they genuine continuations of a story, or fantasies we indulge in to recapture the magic of the original? By making Arthur's reality so fluid, Phillips is asking us to question not just the events of the film, but our own acceptance of narrative conventions. Returning for a moment to the musical numbers, the introduction of them in a gritty, realistic setting is perhaps the most overt crossing of the line of reality and fantasy. These sequences often occur at moments of high emotion or stress for Arthur, suggesting they might be manifestations of his mental state. But are they? The ambiguity is intentional and powerful. As film critic Mark Kermode notes, such juxtaposition creates a dreamlike quality that enhances our understanding of the character's psyche. Phillips transforms mundane environments into lavish stages through clever use of mise-en-scène, or set dressing. The courtroom scenes, bathed in red lighting, turn a legal procedure into a theatrical spectacle. The visual focus not only reflects Arthur's mental state, but also comments on how we, as an audience, perceive and remember iconic film locations. The introduction of Harley Quinn adds another layer to this reality-bending narrative. Is she a real person, or a projection of Arthur's desires and madness? This ambiguity echoes the way fans often perceive character relationships, projecting their own desires and interpretations onto the screen. As media scholar Henry Jenkins puts it, fans often blur the lines between text and viewer, creating a participatory culture where the narrative extends beyond what's explicitly shown. The constant shifting between reality and fantasy serves as a clever meta-commentary on the nature of sequels themselves as well. Sequels have to straddle a line between continuing a real story and indulging in fan fantasies. Add in the aspect of what the studio wants with this, and it becomes a bit of a mess. Phillips comments on the push and pull between artistic integrity and audience expectations in sequel making.
Corruption of the judicial system, of the prison system. But even more than that is the corruption of entertainment. We put trials on television. We'll put a murderer like Arthur on TV and sell ads during the interview. We'll have presidential elections with graphics that make it look like a wrestling match. The idea being, if everything is entertainment, what is actually entertainment that we know?
In an age of deep fakes, alternative facts, and curated social media personas, Joker 2 asks us to consider how we distinguish between reality and fantasy in our own lives. Ultimately, the film suggests that the line between reality and fantasy might not matter as much as we think. What people believe to be real has real consequences, a theme that resonates both within the story, as Arthur's delusions shape Gotham, and metatextually, as our projected beliefs about characters shape our reception to sequels. By constantly shifting the ground beneath our feet, it does more than tell a story. It challenges our understanding of storytelling itself. It asks us to consider the blurry lines between reality and fantasy, not just in Arthur's world, but in our consumption of media and our understanding of truth. Joker Folie doesn't just dip its toes in the idea of corruption, it dives headfirst into its murky depths. In the film, corruption isn't just a plot point, but a pervasive force that permeates every aspect. Movies tend to hold up a mirror to society, Phillips stated in a recent interview, the judicial system, the media, even entertainment itself, but this exploration of corruption goes far beyond mere storytelling. It's woven into the fabric of the film. At its most surface level, we see the familiar corruption of the police, the justice system, the mental health facilities. It's a staple of Batman-adjacent stories, but Joker 2 takes it a bit further. The corruption isn't just a backdrop. It's an active force that shapes Arthur's journey and justifies, in his mind, his descent into madness. But the director turns his lens on the media, offering a scathing critique that feels particularly poignant in our era of fake news and media manipulation.
Was the Joker. Again, it's this thematic thing about identity, but of course Arthur doesn't mean it like that, and he says it, but as you often find with investigative reporters of this ilk, they like kind of the gotcha moment. So it's this idea of corruption of entertainment.
We watch as Arthur's story is sensationalized, distorted, and commodified by the press. It's not merely a plot point. It's a commentary on how real-world media often prioritizes spectacle over truth, especially when dealing with controversial figures. Perhaps most meta of all, Phillips confronts the corruption within the entertainment industry itself. The much-talked-about prison shower scene serves not just to shock, but to challenge our expectations. It forces us to confront the ugliness that we often glamorize in anti-hero narratives. This critique extends to the very idea of sequels too, the potential degradation of an original vision in pursuit of commercial success. Corruption is also personal for Arthur in this story. We witness his own corruption. In the first film, we witness the corruption of Arthur himself, his transformation not just from Arthur to Joker, but from the victim of a corrupt system to a perpetrator of the same corruption. This character arc asks us to consider how corruption perpetuates itself, creating new agents of chaos from its victims. Interestingly, the film's blurring of reality and fantasy, which we discussed earlier, can also be seen as a form of corruption, the corruption of truth itself. In Arthur's world, and perhaps in our own, the very nature of reality is subject to manipulation and distortion. Here's where things get really meta. By presenting Arthur's actions in a stylized, sometimes glamorized way, the film implicates us, the audience, in its cycle of corruption. Our obsession with morally ambiguous characters often reflects a deeper societal discomfort with ethical certainty. By making us root for Arthur, or at least empathize with him, the film corrupts our own moral compass. It's worth noting that, to my mind, corruption doesn't always carry negative connotations in the film. Arthur's corruption is also his transformation, his becoming. This adds a layer of moral ambiguity to the theme. Is all change a form of corruption? Is corruption sometimes necessary for growth or evolution? Ultimately, the film's focus on corruption serves as a scathing indictment of our society. It challenges us to reflect on how we consume media, how we engage with controversial narratives, and how we might be complicit in the very systems we criticize. In crafting this multi-layered exploration of corruption, Phillips has developed a complex commentary on the nature of corruption in all its forms. It doesn't just show us a corrupt world, it implicates us in that corruption, challenging us to reflect on our own role in perpetuating cycles of moral decay in our media consumption and beyond. It's a bold move for a mainstream film in just one aspect that elevates Joker 2 from a mere sequel. As we approach the film's conclusion, Arthur's renunciation of his Joker persona takes on a significance that transcends mere character development. It's a moment that speaks volumes about our relationship with iconic characters and the nature of sequels themselves. Phillips isn't just evolving Arthur Fleck, he's deconstructing the very character he brought to life in the first film, and by extension, challenging our understanding of the Joker as a cultural icon. This deconstruction is epitomized in Arthur's haunting line, "I just want to blow it all up, start a new life." It's Phillips' way of saying that sometimes the most powerful thing a creator can do is to definitively end a story. Phillips is forcing us to confront our own expectations and attachments to this character. He's asking us, what do we really want from the Joker? What does our fascination with this character say about us? The Joker, as a character, has always been about chaos and unpredictability. Yet, paradoxically, he's becoming one of the most predictable and marketable icons in pop culture. By having Arthur reject the Joker identity, Phillips injects true chaos into the narrative, subverting not just our expectations for this film, but for the character as a whole.
Well, there's Arthur, and then there's Joker, and clearly Joker is this celebrated figure in some circles from the first film. So you get this idea that there's really two sides to Arthur, which of course we all know. We've seen the first movie, and it shows up throughout this movie often.
It also serves as a commentary on the comic book movie genre itself. In an era where superhero films have at least recently dominated the box office, often adhering to formulaic structures and character arcs, Joker Folie dares to ask, what if our villain doesn't want to be a villain anymore? What if the icon we've come to accept refuses to play his assigned role? The film's approach to deconstructing the Joker icon is reminiscent of Alan Moore's seminal graphic novel The Killing Joke, which sought to provide a possible origin for the Joker while simultaneously questioning the validity of any single origin story. As Moore's Joker famously said, "If I'm going to have a past, I prefer it to be multiple choice." Phillips takes this concept a little bit further, suggesting that even the choice to have a past, or a future, as the Joker, is itself optional. Consider also, this deconstruction extends beyond the character to the actors who portray him. From Cesar Romero to Jack Nicholson, from Heath Ledger to Joaquin Phoenix, each actor has left a mark on the Joker. By having Phoenix's Arthur reject the persona, Phillips is commenting on the weight of this legacy and the pressure it puts on both actors and audiences. Perhaps we've reached a saturation point with the character, and maybe it's time to let him rest. Those musical elements of the film play a crucial role in the deconstruction as well. As Arthur sheds his Joker persona, the musical numbers become more fragmented and dissonant, mirroring his internal struggle. It's as if the very fabric of the film's reality is being torn apart along with the Joker icon. This deconstruction doesn't diminish the Joker's iconic status. If anything, it enhances it. By showing this version of the character's vulnerability and allowing him to reject his own myth, Phillips adds new layers of complexity to an already multifaceted character. It's a reminder that true icons aren't static images, but evolving ideas that can surprise and maybe even challenge us. The best sequels are the ones that make you reevaluate the original. By deconstructing the Joker, Folie doesn't just make us reconsider the first film. It makes us reconsider every iteration of the Joker we've encountered. As the film concludes, we're left with a profound question. If the Joker is no longer the Joker, what does that make us? We, the audience who has championed and cherished this character for so long. Phillips isn't just challenging Arthur's identity, he's challenging ours as well. By resisting the temptation to endlessly resurrect the Joker, Phillips acknowledges the character's limits and challenges the notion of perpetual sequels. He reminds us that sometimes the most impactful endings are those that dare to truly conclude, leaving us not with answers but with questions that linger long after the credits roll. It's not just deconstructing an icon, it's deconstructing our relationship with icons, with sequels, and with the very nature of storytelling in modern cinema. It's a bold statement in an age of many failed cinematic universes and never-ending franchises, reminding us that true artistry sometimes means having the courage to end a story, even when the audience is clamoring for more. Why is Joker Folie better than you think? Because it's not just a follow-up, it's a daring deconstruction of sequel culture itself. It challenges us to think critically about our relationship with media and the nature of storytelling in the age of franchise filmmaking. Todd Phillips has crafted a film that operates on multiple levels. It's a psychological character study, a social critique, and a meta-commentary on the filmmaking process. By blending genres, blurring the lines between fantasy and reality, and subverting our expectations, Joker Folie spans the boundaries of what a comic book film can be. That title isn't just about Arthur and Lee's shared delusion. It's about us, the audience, and the madness we share with the creators of stories we love. We keep resurrecting characters, even when their arcs have ended. The film challenges us to be more than just passive consumers. It asks us to engage critically with the media we consume. In a world of formulaic franchise filmmaking, Joker Folie dares to be different, which is of course punishable by box office death. It's challenging, it's provocative, and yes, it's better than you think. So give it another chance. You might find yourself captivated by the madness. Subscribe for more in-depth film analysis, and check out my film discussion podcast with special guests. Stay copacetic.